Hi, this is your welcome video for T4202 Theology in the Classical Era, Trinity, Christology, and Deification. I want to make you a syllabus video so I can introduce you to the class, to the syllabus, expectations. That way we won't have to take class time to do that. But as we walk through the syllabus together in this video, you'll have questions that you can bring to class. So this will get you started, orient you to the class, and then we will use our class time, a portion of our class time, to discuss whatever questions you are bringing. So this is a course in the early the early writings of the church. The course description that you get here expands a bit beyond that. I say goes up to Thomas and Bonaventure. This is the way it was written in the catalog originally, and so I didn't change that. But the actual content of the course stops a bit sooner than that. We'll be dealing with the first, through John of Damascus, so through the around the year 800-ish, right around there. You can see the learning objectives that I got there for you. Identify and interpret key ideas that come out of some of the most important theologians of the classical tradition. Classical tradition is just a way I'm going to say the pre-modern, and in this case pre-medieval, classical era, sort of Greek-influenced world. So that's the way of referring to that. Sometimes also the discipline is often called patristics, which is the study of the church fathers. That's a pretty honest way of talking about the fact that these figures are all male. We will be spending time talking about the important influencers of the era that were not just male. Some of the women from the era. We will also be reading secondary writings from people who are not all male, not all from the same race and ethnicity. So one of the ways that we're approaching the fact that this is pretty limited in terms that the discipline itself, in terms of primary sources, pretty limited in terms of gender, ethnicity, region. They're all sort of coming from around the Mediterranean world, North Africa, through the Middle East, into Constantinople, west into as far as Rome. That's really the region that we're talking about. But we'll be reading folks from very different places who are reading those folks and having their own interactions with them. So that's a way that I like to be honest about the lack of diversity in the field of in the primary sources of the field of study, but then incorporate diversity into how we actually study these folks. You'll see the only required text I have for you is Hans Urs von Balthasar, Presence and Thought, his book on Gregory of Nyssa. You can buy this. I know that for whatever reason it's quite expensive. It didn't used to be. I guess it's just not as sought after anymore. You can buy this. You can use library. Use a library's copy. You can find other ways. You can use the no problem at all in getting an ebook version of it. So if there are ways to make that more affordable, I just encourage you to be creative and find them. We'll be reading that along as we go. Participation grades. So let's talk for a moment. So that reading, but then all the other readings are you can find on Populi, either linked or as a PDF on Populi. It's a seminar course. You're gonna watch some videos where I introduce the figures, but then the whole course is going to be set up on our conversation with one another. So it's going to be really important that you show up ready to discuss. And I've even given you some guiding questions. This is a great place to just check in each week. Am I ready to talk about which parts of the reading were most meaningful, which parts were most difficult, what connections did I make to other readings, what connections, what questions would I like to ask the author? So these are some things just to get you thinking as you're reading through, as you're coming into class. Try to bring that with you. I'm going to try. We're going to have key takeaways, and I'm going to try to have that as 5 minutes at the end of each class. We'll do some experimenting here. I'm going to have you write them down, but then as we have time, as we sort of get that into the bloodstream of the class, we may try just taking some time also and just talking about that together. Maybe 10 minutes, 5 minutes for writing and 5 minutes for discussing. But we'll see. We'll experiment with that as we go. Here you can see that for whatever reason you're seeing this in columns, but and you can see all this that's behind me. You can have your syllabus in front of you also, just to kind of go along. I have 2 interpretive claim papers that I'm going to ask you for. One from the first half, one from the second half, and you can see what I'm asking you for. I've given you a very specific question, and so I've basically prepared your thesis statement for you. The question that I've asked you is explain how one particular theologian understands the journey into the divine. So your thesis statement is going to be, if you choose Gregory of Nyssa, Gregory of Nyssa understands the journey into the divine as, and you get to finish that sentence. So that's your interpretive claim. That's a claim you're making, and then you're going to use readings from the course to demonstrate the validity of that claim. You can do this twice, once before fall break and once after fall break. And those instructions there, I hope, are clear enough. Choose one of the first half theologians for that first one of the second half theologians for the second. And then the other main assignment is an adult ed class, where I'm going to ask for a 25 to 30 minute recording. It's the kind of thing that you can actually just use in a class, where you give the basics of this theologian and theological ideas, presented in a way that's clear and palatable for a non-specialist. A key thing here, you can do some bio, but get pretty quickly to the theology. I say minimize the biographical details. We could talk for 20 minutes about some of these really interesting biographies, but that's not what I'm asking for here. What I'm asking for here is get to the key ideas of the theology that you want to pass on to your class as quickly as possible. And here I'm not giving you the thesis. I'm not saying this is the sentence that I want you to present. I want you to be in charge of this, and I want you to say, boy, if I was going to teach Gregory of Nyssa, I think I would really want him to work up to understanding this idea, or these couple of related ideas. Maybe it's their approach to Scripture. Maybe it's the place of the Holy Spirit. Maybe there's something really unique about their Christology that we talked about in class, and I really want to teach. I want my class to understand that. Great. Make that the center. Work up to it. 25 to 35 minutes in your video to introduce it and work with it. Those are the assignments. Those are the things that you will turn in and what I will grade. I use Populi rubrics. That's pretty much just taking the information here in the syllabus and putting it onto a rubric and showing you this is actually just all I'm grading. This is how I'm grading. Working right down there. I don't think I need to talk in detail about the topics. You can see these. You can see that I'm framing the class with perichoresis as a concept. So we're going to start there. We're going to end there, and then in between we're just going to hit the key figures, and we're going to do one figure each time. There will always be at least one primary reading, a reading from that theologian, and then at least one secondary reading. And then pretty early on, week 1, 2, 3, 4, looks like September 19th. We'll start reading the von Balthasar book on Gregory of Nyssa. So we're gonna be sort of tracking Gregory of Nyssa as we go along, but then not discussing. We can sort of check in on that, but the main discussion won't be about that book until we actually get to Gregory of Nyssa Day, which you'll see is the 10th, and really. So the reason for that book. This is what you're studying is theologians of the classical era with a theologian rather than a historian. Obviously, we're digging into church history here, but the approach that I bring is looking for theological themes and connecting theological themes. So I'm interested in how we talk theology now, today, and I'm interested in using these figures that we're engaging with as dialogue partners for that. So more than what did Augustine say about X, the ultimate thing that I'm interested in is how do we think theologically? What is the way that we make our journey into God, and how does Augustine help us think? How's Augustine the right dialogue partner at this moment to help us frame that? Or maybe disagree with. Maybe the things that he says help us see what we don't want to say. Great dialogue partner. Good talk, Augustine. That's the way I want to use these. So, Hans Urs von Balthasar, one of the giants of 20th century theology, Swiss Catholic theologian, like one of the most creative minds, maybe the most creative theological mind of the century. His approach is literary, it's philosophical, it's dramatic. He writes with sort of theatrical metaphors. He's an important theologian in coming into the Vatican II Council. He's very much focused on contemporary theological conversation, and so when he reads Gregory, that's what he's bringing to bear. He's reading them. He's a brilliant historian, but his primary task is to engage with a text, a theologian like Gregory of Nyssa, as someone who is concerned about the life of the church, the life of Christians, the theological thinking in the world today. So that's the reason he's going to be our text that we follow along, so that we can learn from him as he does that. You can check in here on the further policies. Check in on, especially on the attendance policy, how we do that. These are the resources that are open to you, and other policies that are just part of how we do things here at the seminary. So I encourage you to read through these carefully. Questions about any of these, any of the calendar, any of the readings, any of these policies are totally appropriate for our conversation on the first day of class, or as we move on. So thanks. I'm really looking forward to this journey with you. It's one of my favorite things I get to do, teach this class. I'm glad you're taking it, and I can't wait to see what turns up from this engagement with these brilliant classical theologians, as we do something that's never been done before. Bring this collection of people into the room with your experience, with your thoughts, with your curiosities, and see what it stirs up. So looking forward to the journey. Talk to y'all soon.